What if an aviation giant, an airline that millions rely on to bridge 5 continents, suddenly vanished from some of the world's most critical airports? Behind a seemingly standard corporate announcement lies a massive hidden crisis. We're talking about a story of skyrocketing costs, intense geopolitical shockwaves, and a brutal internal struggle that threatens to completely reshape the skies. In today's Explainer, we're going to uncover exactly what forces a major carrier to suddenly abandon the world's biggest cities. We'll look right past the sanitized PR statements and map out the tangled web of international crises, from war zones to supply chain collapses, and reveal what this means for the entire aviation sector. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll cover the sudden flight suspensions, the geopolitical domino effect, internal crises and supply chains, strategic aviation implications, and finally, surviving the turbulence. All right, let's dive right into part 1, the sudden flight suspensions. Let's look at the stark reality on the tarmac. This isn't some far-off projection, it's happening right now. Between June and August, Air India is entirely suspending operations from Delhi to major global arteries like Newark, Chicago, Mali, and Shanghai. Out of Mumbai, they're dropping Newark, JFK, and Dhaka. And if that wasn't enough, they're also slashing flight frequencies on various other routes out of Delhi, Mumbai, and Chennai. It is a severe, immediate contraction of their global footprint. In the boardroom, they use a specific technical term for this: network rationalization. Basically, it means reorganizing an airline's routes to improve efficiency and stability when external pressures get too high. The airline officially claims these cuts will reduce last-minute passenger inconvenience. And yeah, you can't have a delayed flight if the flight doesn't even exist, right? But really, it's a corporate euphemism that masks some severe operational bleeding. Which brings us to part 2, the geopolitical domino effect. So, what is actually causing this massive bleed? Fuel prices are the big headline, but they're literally just the tip of the iceberg here. Air India is caught in an impossible vice grip. On one side, the ongoing Iran conflict has sent global jet fuel prices skyrocketing. On the other side, because of the 2025 India-Pakistan airspace restrictions, the airline is forced to fly incredibly long, highly inefficient westward reroutes. Think about it. They have to fly longer to avoid restricted airspace, at the exact moment when the fuel needed for those extra hours is at its absolute most expensive. It's a perfect storm. But wait, there's more. Let's look at part 3, internal crises and supply chains. External geopolitical pressures alone don't ground an airline of this size to this extent. It's a relentless sequence of internal operational shocks. Back in 2022, there was huge optimism when the airline was privatized under the Tata Group, but the hurdles just kept compounding. In 2025, they got hit with those massive India-Pakistan airspace restrictions. That exact same year, tragedy struck with a fatal crash. And now, moving into 2026, the Iran conflict and soaring costs are forcing these drastic route suspensions. We really need to pause on the events of 2025. That fatal Boeing 787-8 crash shortly after takeoff in Ahmedabad wasn't just a devastating human tragedy. It instantly subjected the airline to intense, ongoing regulatory scrutiny. When you have to navigate the rigorous, exhausting safety audits that follow a hull loss, it adds a grave layer of complexity to an airline that is already stretched to its absolute limits. And the timing here couldn't be worse because the global supply chain is practically paralyzed. The tools they desperately need to modernize just aren't arriving. They're facing delayed deliveries of new aircraft, and even their current fleet is suffering, with ongoing cabin upgrade works completely stalled. You literally cannot rebuild an airline's network and reputation if the planes themselves are stuck in a broken supply chain. So what does this all mean? Let's move to part 4, strategic aviation implications. Let's see how the corporate narrative holds up against reality. Air India's official statement says these changes are aimed at improving network stability and reducing last-minute inconvenience to passengers. It's perfectly sanitized PR language, isn't it? But after looking at the airspace closures, the fuel spikes, the fatal crash, and the supply chain failures, the contrast is incredibly stark. They are having to frame a forced, desperate retreat as a proactive stabilization strategy. But here is where things become really alarming. Air India is absolutely not alone in these struggles. This rationalization strategy illustrates a much broader industry crisis. We're seeing a growing number of global carriers slashing capacity right now. The extreme fuel price volatility driven by international conflicts is an existential threat to the entire aviation sector, especially for major players operating in the highly vulnerable Asian air transport market. Which leads us to our final section, Part 5, Surviving the Turbulence. So how on earth do they weather this storm? Well, consider this really surprising figure, 1,200. Even after all the suspended routes and canceled flights to cities like Chicago, New York, and Shanghai, Air India is still operating more than 1,200 international flights every single month. That number is a massive testament to the stubborn scale of their operation. Despite the cascading failures, the delayed planes, and the geopolitical chaos, Air India is fighting aggressively to hold onto its position as a global powerhouse. They are maintaining a robust network that still spans 5 continents. Essentially, they're taking the hit on their most costly, inefficient routes just to protect the core of their global presence. It's a high-stakes, calculated gamble for survival. And this changes everything we thought we knew about international travel. In an era of constant, unpredictable geopolitical disruption, are these drastic route cuts and sudden capacity slashes going to become the new normal? If you're passionate about aviation and airspace technology, subscribe to Airflight Space and turn on notifications so you never miss our future explainers. Let us know in the comments, do you think this constant geopolitical disruption will permanently transform the future of aviation? In aviation, today's geopolitical shocks often become tomorrow's reality. Thanks for watching Airflight Space.